Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 154 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we get back to business with an absolutely jam-packed episode. To start things off, Jake Basile sits down with Jack Boschert to discuss his recent commitment to the University of Wisconsin Superior, as the second-year netminder is the first player ever in league history to commit directly to the Yellow Jackets program. Then, the E-Crew reunites for the first time in 2 weeks and goes through a full division-by-division breakdown inside the weekly rundown. Moving along to the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge, Team HNIB surprises me with a special Honorary Captain selection, which of course is the reason why we took a brief week off last week. Then finally, we wrap things up the way that we always do, with our What to Watch For segment.
Hello, E-Show. I'm here alongside Express Hockey Club goaltender Jack Boschert. He's currently rocking a .939 save percentage, .202 goals against average with 3 shutouts. He's represented the Express at the EHL All-Star College Series, the EHL All-Star Classic, but most recently he's become the first ever direct commit from the Eastern Hockey League to University of Wisconsin Superior. So obviously congratulations in order, Jack, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It's awesome to be here.
So first off, commitment's behind you now. Just your general thoughts, and are you relieved?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big relief off my shoulders. I don't think I'm really the type of guy that is very stressed out by it. I normally just take stuff day to day, but it's nice to be in the rearview mirror at this point. So
we know you're a guy who had several options this year. What made Superior the number one choice?
I went out there for a visit. I really love the area. You know, I thought the area was great. I thought the whole team was great too. Just the atmosphere that Coach McKenna had built there over the past, I think, 6 or 7 years since he's been the head coach. Just awesome atmosphere. I absolutely loved it, and when I was there, it felt right, so it was an easy decision from there.
And for a guy in your shoes, EHL age-out year, what's the recruitment process like, and how much of it is a day-to-day thing, weekly thing? How much is it on your mind?
It's definitely always in the back of my mind. I know at the beginning of the year, it was just sending out a lot of emails, trying to get coaches to get that chance to come out and look at you. From there, it's kind of balls in their court once you send emails. You just got to wait to see what they say.
And so you're the first ever direct commit to the University of Wisconsin Superior from the EHL. So when you look at that roster, it's a lot of NAL guys, a lot of college transfers, but now your name's up there. So how does it feel to see that? It's
awesome. I mean, it's something I've worked very hard for, not only myself, but just my parents supporting me throughout, the 15 years I've been playing hockey. So I hope I made them proud, but it's awesome. It's a great feeling.
Obviously, you did have a great support system, like you said. So what was the general reaction from family, friends, and your teammates here in Walpole? Yeah,
my family was really excited. I think when my dad and I left the visit, I called my mom right away, and she was like, "That's awesome! I'm so excited!" She was really excited for me. I know Coach Coda and Coach Kyle were also excited. I called them and I said, this is the place. Like, I absolutely love it here. It's where I want to go. It's where I'm going to go. And then, when I got back, all my teammates were like, "Oh, what's your decision? What's your decision?" I was like, "I don't know. We'll have to wait and see." And then Coach ended up announcing it later that day when we started practice. But it was just awesome. I got a lot of great people that are rooting for me, so it's awesome.
So Coach got to announce it, not you?
Yeah, I kind of was just going to let Coach do it at his own time. I didn't know how he wanted to do it, so I was just going to let him.
Was it tough to keep in, or did you want to tell everybody?
I thought I did a pretty good job hiding it. Guys asked me. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
So you brought up your dad, and obviously he made that trip with you, and he's a guy who's making a lot of trips.
Yeah.
You see him at every showcase. So what has he meant to your career so far?
Everything. I mean, right from the beginning, I started skating when I was 3. Apparently, did not like it. Was crying the first time I ever touched the ice, and then I did learn to skate when I was 5. And ever since then, my mom and dad just have always been by my side, always my biggest supporters, just giving me the tools to succeed, whether it's in hockey, in school, just in life in general. So they're massive to me, especially my dad, just making trips up. I know that's hard for him. It's an 18-hour drive, but he does it. He loves it, and I'm just happy he gets to come out and see me play.
I think Wisconsin's only like 8 or 10
It's
hours.
10.
Or
It's
10
It's
hours?
a little closer,
Wow, yeah.
So
a little less mileage
Yeah.
for Mr. Boschert. Who are some other folks that have had some big inspiration in your career?
I got to say my goalie coach, Bruce Racine. I've seen him since I was 6. He's always been there for me, and I've been texting him, especially this year, just kind of through the process, updating him and asking him questions. Obviously Coach Coda, Coach Kyle, my advisor, just pretty much anybody that I deal with day-to-day basis. Like, whether they realize it or not, it's just a big help to me. So.
Yeah. And growing up playing hockey, you played for Duchesne Pioneers, St. Louis Junior Blues. So, what are some of your favorite memories from youth hockey?
Youth hockey, growing up, going to tournaments, playing shinny in meeting rooms, conference rooms, so much fun. High school, I played Duchesne. We ended up losing the championship game my junior year. Went back my senior year and won. So for high school, I'd say winning the championship. Juniors, as cheesy as it sounds, just all the bonds and memories you make with your teammates. It's just awesome. I don't think you really get this experience many other places. You just get to play hockey and you see these guys every single day. It's just a bond it's a brotherhood you're gonna have for the rest of your life. So.
And going over your time in junior hockey, you didn't start in the EHL, you started in the USP and the NCDC. So how'd you end up here with Walpole?
So I spent, I believe it was 1920, first half of the season on NCDC, got cut and put on elite, went down to the Florida bubble. And then after that year was over, Cody Campbell luckily saw me and gave me a chance to come out. And I just kind of took off with it, and here we are.
And another big moment in your career was going to the All-Star College Series this year, representing the Express. So give you a little taste of college action. What was the experience like and your overall assessment of that competition?
It was awesome, especially meeting guys from other teams. It was just awesome. When you're competing, you might not like them the most on the ice, but you get to see a different side of them. I had a blast. The college competition, I thought it was a little faster. It was stronger, harder. Everything was just a step up, and it was like I got a little starry-eyed. I was enjoying it. I loved it. I was having a blast out there because it was fun. It was a little bit of hockey, and I was getting excited for next year. So 4
more years of it on the way too.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, you have to take a look at the last year's playoff run. Didn't end the way you hoped, but a .967 and a .107 for you. Was that the best hockey you had played in your career?
Probably the best hockey. I'm fortunate enough to, I don't know what it is, but most of the time when playoffs come around, I think the whole team just clicks and everybody starts to trust each other a little more. Especially last year, everybody just took it up, different level. It was awesome last year. That was probably the best hockey ever. So,
you guys are in one of the tightest divisions this year, in a hunt for first place. How much would it mean to get a championship in your final year of junior hockey?
Everything. I mean, it'd be awesome. Like I said, I did the same thing with high school, got it my last year. It'd be awesome if I could get it this year.
And this is certainly a group that can get it done. But we want to talk about you a little bit, get to know you. So every goalie has their style. What would you say yours is?
Probably hybrid. I grew up watching a lot of Jonathan Quick. Absolutely loved him. Sergei Bobrovsky was also another big one. I think I get a lot of inspiration from Josh Girard, my goalie partner. He's probably the most athletic kid I've ever seen in my entire life. So I've definitely taken a note or a couple things from him. But, I think I'm a smaller goalie, so I try and stay out a little bit, stay on my feet as long as I can, and just read the play.
But you don't have the temperament of Jonathan Quick, right?
No. I'm probably one of the quietest guys on the ice during the game, so.
But not in the room?
Game days, I'm quiet. practice, you'll hear me talk. I don't shut up. So
Okay, so for a game day, what's the preparation routine like for you?
it starts the night before. I have a little bit of a sweet tooth, so I'll maybe have some Oreos or a little bit of cookie dough after dinner. Depending when the game is the next day, normally I don't eat a whole lot before games. Get to the rink 2 hours early, change into warm-up clothes, tape my stick. After I tape my stick, I kind of just sit there. I'll play, I don't know if you know it, it's like you got colors and you got to get all of them in one like bottle, if you want to call it. Stupid stuff like that. I'll do that. I'll play chess, just kind of do whatever. Then we do off-ice warm-ups. After that, I'll do my own kind of thing and get dressed and get out there.
You playing chess like online? Like online
Chess.com.
Chess.com?
I'll play the computer, so I get waxed a lot. It's okay.
and off the ice, what are some things you like to do when you're away from the rink? Or actually, since we talked before, at the rink too?
A lot of chess. A lot of chess. I brought my chessboard to the rink. I think it's a pretty big hit. I think a lot of guys will play it before practice. 3 days a week outside of practice, I stay at the rink. I coach some of the youth goalies in the Walpole program. So it's an awesome experience just to kind of learn how to take that approach of coaching and leading. And then obviously I can learn a little bit about myself, how I should carry myself outside of hockey. I think away from the rink, I love to golf. I wish it would be a little warmer. I haven't golfed in a long time, though. I've definitely talked a little smack to some of the guys on the team about my golf game, so we'll see if I can back it up at the end of the year.
I'm looking forward to the academic side of school as well. What are you hoping to study?
Yeah, I'm hoping to study something in the business field, business administration, something like that. Pretty typical hockey major, I would say, but I think there's a lot of things you can do with it. So,
finally, you touched on it before. Age out year for you. What are you going to remember most from your junior years?
I think, like I said earlier, just the friendships. I mean, this year, last year, the bond is just, it's amazing. Everybody's got everybody's back. There's nothing that can beat it. It is just a brotherhood. There's nothing that can beat it.
All right, Jack. Thank you for your time and keep making the E Show proud.
Thank you.
This week's episode is brought to you by Hockey Tech, the developers for the new EHL app, available now in both Apple and Google stores. And with that, let's bring in this week's E-Crew, Jeff, Tyler, Anthony. I feel like it's been a month. It's only been 2 weeks, though. but it's been a while.
You missed
And
one.
we have another
episode.
Raven in the household since we last did a podcast. Neil, congratulations on the birth of beautiful baby boy Chase Raven, first and foremost.
Yes, congrats, Neil.
Yeah,
We're
so
happy
I
for
mean,
you, man.
we would have loved to have a podcast last week, but
Were you a little busy?
Yeah, I got a good little. What did the graphic even say? I'm trying to find the graphic right now that we posted last Thursday. Something about exciting news coming, and I was like, yeah,
It previewed it. It definitely did preview it.
We will return next week with a new supersized episode featuring a special guest and some exciting news. So yes, a lot to talk about. I'm a father.
He was officially
now.
a dad.
Yeah, it's
you were a father to Nash Raven, Nash Pup Raven, for everyone that doesn't know. Great, beautiful golden retriever that Neil and Vicky have had for years, but now you're a doggy father and a human father.
Yeah.
A little different, huh?
Both boxes.
From what I hear.
Yeah. it hasn't totally set in yet, but like I said, there is a lot that we need to talk about, so let's jump now into the weekly rundown.
It's time for the E-Crew's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
I think the last time we recorded was like January 25th or something like that. So
yeah, it was a Wednesday morning, 10 a.m., January 25th. That was it.
Look at this. Jeff has the time and everything.
I remember.
I mean, at that point, I was under the assumption that when the doctor gives you a due date of February 17th for your child, that the child's going to come near February 17th, right?
Well,
not February 3rd.
He's had other plans.
Neil texted us all in the group me and was like, guys, we're going in. I know we're supposed to do 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, but stay tuned because we're going in. That was it.
But let's kind of work a little bit chronologically, because right after we recorded the podcast, this is going to sound like it's more about me, but I have to talk about it. We dropped that podcast on the 20. Yeah, we dropped the podcast on the 26th. The JBT shootout was the 28th, and I figured out my secret. I just have to bring Jake and Trevor with me, and then I finally don't get second place. I get first place.
Yeah.
You had that support with you, Neil. It was proof that it's a team game.
Yes.
And I think having that support was really critical in guiding you to that victory.
Yeah, I mean,
and did they help you a little bit with those slippery moves that you pulled off? Was that all you? Be honest with us. Was it?
Let's put it this way.
You had some moves, buddy. You moves like Jagger. Holy
thank
crap!
you. I mean, it was I surprised myself. Well, I guess we'll recap the goal. We'll recap the goals because obviously they've been posted. I had
your
to go,
face showed surprise.
well, I had to go first. Like how it works in the first intermission is you get one puck for being a shooter, and then you get one additional puck for every $1,000 that you raise. So I've always been in the $2,000 range. I mean, I think that's pretty good, but there was one person that raised about $7,300. So like that's just mine times 3, right? So, but with those, with the pucks that you get in that first intermission, you have to score just one of them to get into then the sudden death round in the second intermission. So they're like, all right, we're going to go based off who raised the most money. They go last. The least goes first. Well, a couple of people that raised not as much money as I did didn't want to participate in the actual shootout. They wanted to just raise money. So it looks like I raised the least because I went first. But I was like, all right, let's just go in there and make a quick move and see what happens. So I was fortunate.
You did.
I was fortunate to score on the I guess it was like a stick handle backhand forehand. And then in the sudden death round, it was funny because I went first again. Actually, every single shooter missed. So it came back around to me, like as a sudden death. And I was like, you know what? If he saves it, whatever, I'm just gonna shoot this puck as hard as I can. Like, I don't care like what happens. I'm just gonna shoot it as hard as I can, and like I know where I'm gonna try and aim it, and we'll see what happens. And I went off the post and in, and I was like,
you look like you had done it before, Neo.
Yeah,
like I was like goal scorer.
Yeah, and even Trevor was like, wow, like so. One other person scored in that round, so then it came back to me again, and I did the Forsberg whatever move, and I was like,
yeah, that was my favorite.
Oh, yeah, that was
I guess I really have to have a conversation with Owen Courier though, who's the EHLP goalie for the Wolves. He was the goalie wearing the white jersey, right? I needed to know. I need to know if my move to win it actually like surprised him, or if he was just,
I would say, I mean. I don't know if you're ever really anticipating the Forsberg, even in a charity shootout. I don't think you're ever really. It takes a lot of guts to pull that move off.
I mean, you see Jokinen in the NHL legit scored like 7 or 8 consecutive shootout attempts with that same move.
It's like a broken like cheat code almost because the goalie is just never going to expect it.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, Tyler, you're a resident goalie. Like you could tell us probably the better out of all of us here. About like what does go through the mind frame of an Owen Courier during a shootout. Like you're just kind of
I mean you're especially at that you're just probably just having fun and just taking it easy. But like even if he was like trying, probably I don't know. I don't think you're expecting that. Especially like
there's no true scouting report on Neil Rabbit, is there? I mean,
I'm not saying he was doubting your abilities, Neil, but I don't think you're expecting that move from any kind of player, really.
I just wonder.
Neil just told us himself he wasn't even expecting this.
And then Neil was just like, I'm pretty much as good as Peter Forsberg. No big.
You looked confident, dude. You looked real confident.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh, the trophy.
I totally didn't even realize this. I have it right here.
There it is. The gold.
They hand this to me, right? And I'm like, what happened to it?
I was gonna say a little fancy out with the duct tape, eh?
Well, it's electrical tape, right? So
it's electrical tape.
The previous champion's like, yeah, when I won, I got home and I was like trying to like raise it like this, and I just like lost my grip, so it flipped like this, and I just smashed it off the ground. I was
Swan dove.
What?
Butterfingers.
So
I mean, even Lord Stanley and Vince Lombardi Trophy, those have taken some dives as we've seen
They have
with our
taken a few dents,
local favorites.
But
no trophy, I guess.
Nick Obey Cubell, who stumbled at the cup last season in Colorado?
Good call it. Yep.
No trophy, I guess, compares to the JBT one. Even all these EHL ones behind me, right?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that one kind of stands out. But it might even be the tallest of them all. So
I'm sure Andrew Trimble will love that.
Yes, I mean, and I think the bigger point of the night, obviously, is that they raised $33,000, and
that's excellent.
It's the highest total they've ever reached, and for some reason, with the exception of 1 year, Andrew knows what I'm talking about. The Wolves EHL team in that game always does something special, and they come back in overtime to win that game. Against Seacoast, a hat trick for Budina, and it's just like every year, it's like an annual tradition for them. So already looking forward to getting back there for it again next year, and I guess you could say defending my title.
You have to.
So, I mean,
Chase will get you babysitting for the night, buddy. We'll take care of it. We'll figure it out, even if each crew has to watch.
Thank God Chase came a week later than he did. Or right? Like, what if he had come a week before? I wouldn't have been able to be a part of it. So
yeah, absolutely.
But pretty cool. That was not the only charity game of that weekend, because the very next day, the Avalanche hosted their annual autism awareness game.
That's right.
Which of course is for head coach Chris Sorrella's oldest son, Kyle, who battles with autism. Tyler, you were on the call for that one. So I just thought it was cool that, like, in one weekend, like, Seacoast and the Wolves from the North are up here for this charity game, and then the Lumberjacks and the Avalanche are down here for this charity game. And it's like, we've talked so much about the North, and that's kind of where we're leading off right now. And there's just fierce rivals, but they can also put that aside for the greater good, if you will, right? And in one weekend, they both put together these great benefit charity games where the points were important to both sides, and I just thought it was pretty cool how it all played out. A great way to wrap up January. I guess we'll start there because, as you can all imagine, Chris has already stopped by my house to visit with the baby, right?
Oh, I had a text from Ryan McGrath. I was playing EHL secretary the other day. Coaches were texting me, "Is he here yet, Jeff? Is he here? Where's is Chase here? Hello, where is he?" And I was like, "Not yet, guys. Haven't heard anything. Let Neil be. He'll reach out. Don't worry."
And when he stops by,
he's gonna be a PIMS monster, by the way, Chase. Have we seen the picture of him? Yeah. He is long, guys. Can't teach size, Neil. You can't teach size.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to have that conversation about the PIMS when we get there. But when Chris comes over, there's a point to this whole thing. I'm getting to the point. When Chris comes over, he's like, he points to right here, the regular season championship trophy behind me. And he goes, "Are you going to bring that to me next week?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Are they that close to clinching?
Jeff, exactly what I was thinking.
Yep.
Like 65 points.
What they are essentially, you could say now, it's tougher than in baseball where you can do what do they call it, the magic number or whatever, right?
Yeah, right.
But the Avalanche are at 65 points, right? Seacoast, the closest team behind them, has 8 games left for a max of 16 points, which would put their 52 up to 68, right? So if the Avs win 2 more games, regardless of whatever happens with Seacoast, because obviously Seacoast would have to win all those out, Avs lose all those out. But if the Avs get 4 more points, it's over. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't even notice that we were that close.
But again, something we've talked about all year.
They just keep winning too. Like
they're just so good.
That's my question for your guys.
39 games. It's insane.
When you compare this to other Avalanche teams, they're 31-5-3. Is this possibly the best Avs team he's ever had?
They got 15 guys that have over 10 points this year too. Double-digit points. 15 freaking players. That's like so. Yeah, of course we've talked a lot about Aiden Hotchkiss and Daniel McKiernan and Kyle Dan, but I mean it's the Rory Andriolis. It's Gavin Havens is a new addition. He's got 14 points in 11 games.
Manly World's been great.
Manly World,
Theo Angelopoulos, point per game pace. He's missed some injury. He had some injury time earlier in the year, and I think the depth in this year's team is what stands out as compared to last year's team, which had a pretty good regular season, but as we all know, they did not go into the playoffs playing their strongest hockey, and they didn't go into Providence playing their strongest hockey. So I think there's a motivation factor there big time, because they've got guys that were on that team last year, and they know what it's going to take this time around to not falter in that second half like they did a year ago.
Especially a guy like Hotchkiss, right? Leading these up in the EHL in points leading, but like you said, Ty, is that bad taste from last year. This is his swan song. He's going to play college hockey next year. You want to finish your junior hockey career on the best of notes, which is walking away with that trophy sitting right behind Neil right now.
And it kind of seems like maybe they're going to try and keep that stride going, because there's still games left to be played on the schedule. And you look at it, they've only lost 5 games in regulation. The next closest team is Seacoast, who's only lost 10 games. That's still 5 more. Like, it's just, they've been such a hard team to beat. They don't lose so very often. And it's going to be interesting to see who or how they slow down, if they do slow down.
And this is a question that I'm going to ask about more than one team on this episode. But with 7 games left, would it be helpful for them to drop a few? Or not?
I mean, I don't
we were
think
just all
so.
talking
You're smiling.
I think last year's team dropped a few towards the end, and I don't think that benefited them. I think.
Yeah, didn't they go in on a losing streak, Tyler? That's a good point. I think they did.
Yeah, they didn't win many games towards the end of the year. They had a pretty rough stretch too, where they were losing games that weren't necessarily like close scores either. They had some tough ends to some games at the regular season. Seacoast almost pushed them to the brink in the first round of the playoffs. That's where the Kyle Dan story really began. He was massive for them in that playoff series, and so I think they remember all that from last year, and I think they're aware of it, and I think it's been a primary factor in them having such a good year this year. They're a motivated bunch.
It's funny you say that, Tyler, because on one hand, I don't think it matters too much whether you go into the playoffs hot or cold, but at the same time, I do believe it could be a good thing to face some sort of adversity throughout the season before going into the postseason, where I think if you have a string of a couple of losses or a losing streak where you can shore up your weaknesses and make adjustments and get ready for the postseason, or, just play better hockey moving forward. I mean, I think with this Avalanche team, they, haven't faced too much adversity this season, but let's also be fair. We just brought up that we have a lot of guys on the Avalanche right now that have experienced those playoff runs last season and the year before, with guys like Aiden Hotchkiss, Kyle Dan. So I think it could even out. Who knows? But let's also just be real. The playoffs are a crapshoot. we just don't know.
True.
The Avalanche could just run the gauntlet and sweep
game.
Everybody, or it could be like 2 years ago where they lost in the first round to the Spartans. I know we do our bracket picks, but it's just so hard to predict everything.
Their division is still very good. Like, I know the Lumberjacks have had a tough time of late, and the Wolves too, but all 3 of those teams can very well give the Avalanche a tough first round matchup. And Neil, you mentioned the autism awareness game. The Lumberjacks played a double that weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and couldn't pick up those points, but it was close. They did not make it easy on the Avalanche. So even if New Hampshire got the 4 points out of those games, Vermont gave them a good fight on both days, and that would be the first round matchup right now. So
For sure. And just for those that are wondering at home, I guess the first comparison in records, I have to go to the most recent year where we played the same number of games, 46, right? So the Avalanche this past season with 32-9-5. So they're literally 1 win away from matching what they did this past year.
Wow.
They're not going to lose 7 straight games. Okay. Betting man, they're not going to lose their.
We don't think.
Yeah. Right. But I guess
that I would have to say
for the 2017-18 Avalanche that are saying, hold on, it's not the best record ever. That year's team went 39-7-4. Yes, they played 50 games, so you have to factor in 50 versus 46, but 39 wins is pretty big. Then the following year in 45 games, they went 39-6. So maybe 18-19, which was the second championship for them, was probably their best team ever. And then when the game count evens itself out, 2019-20, they went 33-9-4. I'm not even going to say the COVID year because we didn't play enough games, but 2019-20, 39-9-4, 21-22, 32-9-5, and then this year, as we've mentioned, 31-5-3. So in a way, they're kind of on the same exact pace as the seasons when they played 46 games.
And I feel like that's exactly what Chris would say to us, guys. This is nothing different. We usually stay around single digit losses. What are you talking about? Do you guys know what you're talking about?
Yeah, and like Chris, like, could you tell the
Perfect
four
Chris
kids?
fashion.
Could you tell the 4 kids that committed while I was in the hospital with my wife that they couldn't wait like 3 days? Like, come on, man. No, congrats.
Even the college coaches, which we all know and love, they would have been like, all right, you can wait till after Commissioner Ravin has Chase, you know?
I mean,
let's
be honest.
We'll sign it out.
There were 12 players that committed from the time that we checked in Wednesday night the 1st to checked out on Sunday the 5th. So it's like, I will get you the graphics when I can. Like,
are they doing that on purpose?
I don't know.
That's a great way to measure college commitments. That we commit so many players in a single hospital visit at the maternity ward. Like, it's a good frame of reference.
It bodes well. It bodes well.
New
for this
statistic
league
for all the
numbers.
junior leagues out there. How many kids do you get committed while one child is being induced? Well, the EHL got 12 commitments in the time that Chase Ravin was induced to when he was born on this earth. The EHL.
So that's the
There's a
North.
commercial.
What do we want to get caught up on next? I say East because
East is interesting.
I have no idea what's going on in the East. Somebody take
What
a
a
stab
wreck.
at this.
I mean, I just want to talk about the
Warriors.
I want to talk about that Seahawks game where they won it in that 8-round shootout where it was against I'm trying to remember. It was against the Wolves, right? Where multiple players went multiple times in the shootout. And I think it was it Hans Forselius? He
scored it. I think John Sterling went more than once.
It was Sterling. Sterling made the same exact move twice.
Yep.
Where he's a left-handed shot coming from the right side. He cut to his forehand side. And it was just one of those things where you just keep cutting and cutting and cutting to the left side. So you're at a sharp angle, but if you open up your body, you still have a lot of net to shoot at.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Jim McCabe was on the call. He pointed it out. It was like an instant replay. It was the same exact move, and he scored twice on it. And then, it was Forselius who won it. That was a great shootout. That was a fun one to watch.
And then the best part of the move, Anthony, is he does the same exact move twice, and then he does the same exact celebration in front of the Wolves bench twice. Right? And I'm like, God, you guys don't even know each other. You play like 4 times, 3 times a year. What is this? But
that was their 4th meeting.
I can't fault them for it. It's exciting, right? When you score a goal like that.
That time of year.
Yeah, I mean, points are at a premium, right?
Yep.
I mean, the Seahawks
postcards from the Lake of Tiberias.
The Seahawks only have 5 games left in their year.
Yes, well,
they're at 41.
And I kind of wanted to get to that next because remember we were talking for a while about how they were so far ahead in game count, but I think they kind of benefited from the run that the Warriors went on, in the upward direction, I guess you could say, and then the run that the Rangers went on in the downward direction, and then for the Rangers to bounce back and sweep the Express, all the while. I don't want to say that the Seahawks were treading water, but they're not playing any games. And all of a sudden, the game count's kind of shrinking a little bit. And the difference, I should say. And they've kind of got back into a fine position here. I mean, there was one point where you could make the case that they were so far ahead in game count that there was no way that they could go for the division title. They're still kind of in that race, though, now because of what's taking place, right?
Yeah.
They have Rangers 2 games in hand, and they have 4-point lead on the Seahawks as of today.
It's better than it was like 5 or 6 games in hand.
Yeah,
I still think it's a tight race up between those 3 teams, and I think with
your
the way
Express
the Warriors
have the best look at it too, Ty. They have the least amount of games played in that division.
They've been playing better of late. The Warriors have, and I think they could even have a chance. The Warriors to hop out of that 5th spot finally.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
Wizards have dropped 4 in a row. At the way that it's been going though in that division, that's sort of been the trend. Is at one point the Express were in 3rd, and now they were in 1st, and now they're not in 1st. And the Rangers have been up and down from almost as far down as 4 at one point. At one point, they had the worst record when they were 0-4 to start the year. So it's just been up, down, and I think, especially between those 3 teams, the Seahawks, the Express, and the Rangers, I think it's going to be right down to the wire still on who can come out on top to finish first in that division. But I think all 5 seeds are going to be moving around because the Warriors have all of a sudden re-entered the fray. I know they lost today, but they played the Avalanche and once again played them close. And I believe it was a 3-2 final today. So and they won the last meeting down in Newington, or I don't know if that was the very last meeting, but I remember calling that game at the Newington Showcase, and the Warriors won in overtime 2-1. So they always seem to have played the better teams in this league well, and now they're starting to get wins consistently. So by doing that, and the Wizards having lost 4 in a row, now you're talking about Valley moving up the chains, and I think that's got to be exciting for them because since really the start of the year, they've been in that 5th seed.
Yep. You want to host that playing game if you can. You don't want to be going on the road. Create the best scenario.
And Anthony, I'm going to put you on the spot when you get to the South, but for now, because Tyler calls the games for the Express, I have to put him on the spot and address almost the elephant in the room, because I don't think anyone's taking anything away from the Seahawks, Wizards, or Warriors. They could all make a run and end up in that East Division Finals. But I think there's almost an assumption that the 2 top teams that should make it are the Rangers and the Express. Should I say in parentheses, right?
In quotes,
right?
I mean, I could tend to agree with you on that.
But the elephant in the room, Tyler, what do the Express have to do to get a win against the Rangers?
You know, Neil, I think my hope might be that they're saving them for the right time, but it's been a tough matchup, and I think that their goal scoring has improved dramatically since December in terms of the Express, but for some reason, David Filak just remains a tough nut to crack, and he's proven to be one of the elite goaltenders again in this league. The Rangers just somehow, some way, you had Nate Miller last year, and now he's off to greener pastures, and you replace him this year with David Filak, who just stepped right in and has just played unbelievable in goal for them. And you notice when he was out of the lineup for them, how they kind of struggled. They failed to pick up some wins. So goes to show you how really important he is to things. And we know what the Express get when Jack Boschert is in net. It was a 2-1 overtime loss on Friday and then another shutout loss on Saturday. So I don't think it's necessarily Boschert, but they got to find a way to score. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. My next story on HNIB, Tyler Rago saying that David Filak is better than Jack Boschert.
I can't pit 2 great goalies against each other like that, but I think everyone knows where my allegiances would lie on that question.
Yeah. No, we know you're a Boschert man through and through.
Yes, and thanks again to Jake Basile for interviewing Jack at the beginning of this podcast. Pretty cool that he's the first player in league history to commit to the University of Wisconsin Superior. So from what he told Nick Coda, what he told Nick Coda, who told me, is that the second he got out there, he was like, I'm going to this school. So, and good. I would imagine that for Jack's father, who drives to every game, the drive from Missouri to Wisconsin, I'm hoping, is a little bit easier.
I think a little easier
coming up here to
a little Massachusetts.
There's no distance that Kevin Boschert wouldn't travel, I think, but true. I think it'll be a lot closer. And again, congrats to Jack. He's having another fantastic year this year. He really gave this team chances to win earlier in the year when they couldn't buy goals, winning those close games. So you know what you're going to get from him down the stretch, and Josh Girard too. Girard's been great as the second man there too. So you know what you're going to get from your goalies if you're the Express. You just have to find a way to get that offense at a consistent clip. Not an easy thing to do. And the Rangers, to their credit, they're a good defensive team. 89 goals against for them, 81 for the Express. So
for sure. We'll go Central next, so we can wrap things up with Anthony in the South after. But Central, we have this conversation about the Avalanche clinching, what would be the regular season title, and obviously the North Division as well. The Railers are, we're going to do quick math. We don't always do math here, but we have to it sometimes.
Oh boy.
Yes.
There's 18 more max possible points left for the Chiefs, which would put them at 51. So obviously for the Railers at 48, any combination of 4 points then gives them the number 1 seed, which with the lead that they have, we're probably going to assume that's going to be the case, is that As I've said on numerous episodes, the road to Providence goes north first through Worcester. But after that, the next 4 teams, in my opinion, have each had their moment where they've said, we are the second best team in the division. In your opinions, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but we're a month away from playoffs. Which of those 4 will give the Railers the hardest time?
Oh,
I think if I had to say, I think out of those 4 teams, I would have to go with Hockey Club Rhode Island, just because of the regular season matchup. And I think out of all those 3 teams, their goaltending in particular gives me kind of the most upside of Callum Welch seems like he could be a goalie who could steal a playoff game or maybe a playoff series. He faces a ton of shots. He knows what he has to do when he's in net. He knows it's going to be probably a 35, 40, 45 save night, and he delivers for them. So I think the way that Rhode Island's matched up against the Railers, that would be an intriguing matchup for me.
And they just played each other for the first time the other back on January 21st, and Rhode Island won 3-1.
Yeah.
If I'm reading that right, yeah, they had not played each other previously. Is that right?
They were saving their matchups for down the stretch.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I think that would also
crazy.
make it
I was
compelling
like, what?
if they
That has to be
get in the
wrong.
playoffs.
Jeff, don't get Anthony going right now. Interdivision matchups waiting till the end.
That's all right. Yeah, they're playing again Sunday, February 12th. Super Bowl Sunday, HC Rhode Island Railers.
Should I remind them that the Super Bowl is that day? I think it's a 1:00 game, though. They have plenty of time to get home for that.
Yep. But then the Railers did win 4-2 on the 24th, so season series tied at 1. But I agree with Tyler. I think HC Rhode Island, from seeing what they've done, and just kind of process of elimination too. Seeing the Chiefs, Rough Riders, Apple Core a lot at the showcases. I don't think any of those teams truly have what it takes to beat the Railers. I think it would take someone like Rhode Island that just kind of, like Tyler said, with Welch. But would it be Welch? I mean, Mandy and Myers have been in there a lot too. You never know where James Mello, Janine Weber, and Toby O'Brien are going to go. They do things a little differently down in Rhode Island. So, but a very well coached team, a team that absolutely loves each other through and through, always brings the energy. I think it would take like they would be the David and the Railers would be the Goliath to take down the Rail. I just don't think the Chiefs, Rough Riders, and Apple Core offensively or goaltending wise have enough to put up with the Railers down the stretch.
I would agree with you, Jeff. I would agree with you.
You got to score goals, and I don't think they're going to get them. I don't.
I made the pick last year in the bracket, here's the thing with the Apple Core. Now, last season, you have to remember Jackson Bernard was traded to Team Maryland. So in the playoffs, he did not play for Apple Core when they faced the Railers, but they still had their top line scorers in Callanan, Kobe Walters, Weber, but also Charles Lavoie. He was a midseason acquisition. And while Apple Core is not as loaded offensively, they've got Max Benoon.
Mm-hmm.
And if he stays on Apple Core going into the playoffs, then maybe it won't be the scoring so much as the goaltending. As Tyler said, can you have a goaltender that can steal some games? And I think for Apple Core, they've got that goaltender in Benoon. I mean, Jackson Bernard was sort of like an Apple Core legend, but I think Benoon is not that far off.
No.
I mean, he's gotten most of their wins. I think he might actually have all their wins this year. I know there was a time where they have 11 wins on the year, and I'm pretty sure he has all of them. And I've seen him at the showcase last year, or the last showcase that we had in Exeter. I mean, that game he had against the Warriors, if you watched our top 10 plays there, those saves that he made diving across the crease and sprawling around, the kind of goalie that never gives up on a play, never gives up on a puck. So you have to admire that. And I think he knows that it's going to be busy for him more nights than not. The Central Division, those teams, it's kind of been a trend outside the Railers. They struggle defensively. They make life difficult for their goalies, but you got Welch with Rhode Island, Benoon with the Apple Core. Those goalies seem to weather it pretty well more often than not.
Yeah. For sure. I will say, just so everyone is aware too, it was Alfama that had the last win though against the 87s. Donovan Alfama played in that net for that game.
That's right.
So, well, it's something to keep an eye on for sure in
Right.
that central division. But that then segues us to the last division, and my turn to put Anthony on the spot with the South. I guess my takeaway with where the South is at now compared to when we talked last, maybe this is not anything different. It's, in my opinion, now a 2-horse race and a 3-horse race. The two being the Ducks and the 87s battling out for 1 versus 2, and then the final 3 teams there, Philly, Little Flyers, Maryland, and Hockey Club, battling out to not be in the play-in game. Do you have that same takeaway, Anthony?
Yeah, I'd say so. But with those bottom 3 teams, when we say that it's a 2-tiered race, I think we need to be careful in how we phrase it, because those bottom 3 teams, that they could still come away with this division.
Mm-hmm.
Or I just think it's that tight. I know you were just joking about me talking about the interdivisional games versus the interdivisional games, but I think it's fitting because with the South Division, there's a reason why all these teams have a winning percentage close to 500.
Yep.
Because they just beat up on each other, and more so, it's not like other divisions where there are some teams that don't have as much success. Where like Philly Hockey Club beat the 87s the other day, or last week. Team Maryland, Philadelphia Little Flyers, like those are all teams that could be tougher, those top teams like New Jersey or Pro Tech. So there really isn't an easy game, and it really is anyone's division.
Little Flyers, up until yesterday, had won 7 straight and then had a 3-goal lead that they saw disappear against Pro Tech, who's now won 3 straight, while the 87s have lost 4 straight. With all these different streaks, where do you want to be heading right now? Because I just look back at last year's champion, we have to, for the 87s, who went on at one point a 14 or 15 game point streak, but also had an 8-game losing streak. What is the best way, in your opinions, to enter the postseason?
Not too high, not too low. Somewhere right in the middle.
5-5 in your last 10.
Yeah, I think you want to be playing. I still feel like you want to be playing your best hockey heading into the playoffs, no matter what people say. But with the 46-game season, most of these teams, minus your Avalanche, Chris Sorella, have seen losses, have seen streaks of good and bad. But I think, somewhere right in the middle. I think you want to be playing not your best. I don't know if you want to be playing 5-5. I don't know if there really is a perfect answer for this question, but I don't know if you want to go on a 10-game winning streak or a 12-game losing streak, but probably somewhere in the middle. Maybe if you were, say, 7-3 in the last 10. How's that? That's, you had some losses, and but most of your games you're winning.
Yeah.
I think you assess it like individually and by like going down your lineup. I think like the wins and losses can speak for themselves sometimes, but like if you're liking how your team is playing, if you're liking certain aspects of your game, whether it's your penalty killing, your power play, you're getting good goaltending, you're defending well, maybe you're not scoring well, you can kind of assess like those individual aspects of the game. And I think I think every team would like to go into the playoffs on a winning streak per se, but I think, you can still go in 7-3, 5-5 over your last 10 and still feel good about how you're playing necessarily.
I want to build on your point, Tyler. If there's one thing I've learned working in junior hockey for the last 6 or 7 years, is that there are coaches who would actually be happier with a loss where they thought that the team played well versus a win in a very sloppy game.
Sure,
So
because you can learn more from those losses.
That's a valid point, Ant.
From those losses, absolutely.
I think we're caught up on the EHL now.
Whew, take a breath.
Exit.
2 weeks worth of it.
EHLP, we it's going to sound we don't give it as much time, but we have to get the fantasy and what to watch for still. And we already had the interview
episode before, we spent a lot of EHL Premier time too.
Yes.
If you dust off the rust, that was weeks ago, but that was EHL Premier heavy.
Well, the first thing that stands out to me in what's taken place since we recorded is obviously we were talking a lot on the last episode about the Adirondack Junior Thunder. And in the meantime, the Rangers who have won 3 EHLP titles, have said, "That's a cute 9-game winning streak. We'll just get our streak up to 11." Like, is it? Why do things like this season? I guess you could say it's just like quietly sneak up on us. I'm like, they've won 11 straight games. Like, when did that happen?
Neil, I have to say, I was when I was in Hooksett last weekend, I also did Avalanche EHLP as well. And I got to talk to some EHLP parents, and they asked me, how would you rate the EHLP this season compared to last season? And I said straight up, honestly, it might be a little top heavy, but in my opinion, it's better this year than it was last year by a mile. There are so many good teams in this division, and the new teams, the teams that we've added for this year, have, I think, added to the complexity with how well they have played. The Adirondack Junior Thunder and the Pennsylvania Huntsmen in particular. We'll talk both about them, but it's really the old guard, the Rangers, who, as you mentioned, Neil, are just on a scorcher right now with 11 straight wins.
Yeah.
And Tyler, I just want to add to your point too. One thing I've also noticed this season, I think more so than in years past, we're seeing a lot more EHLP players moving up to the EHL, and not just sticking to the lineup, but dominating, playing well. We have guys from last year's EHLP team that's put up 20, 30 points in the EHL now. Yeah. So I think that the EHLP is definitely it's doing a really good job of getting players to the next level. I mean, it's been like that for a while, but like even more so than before.
100%.
I would agree, Anthony.
Yep.
A quick look at the 3 races. Nothing's really changed in the New England division. There's two teams that have 49, one that has 48, one that has 46. So you could be in first place one day and in the play-in game the next, which is just impossible to even wrap your head around that, right?
It's that time of year to just stay on the EHL.com
you
or
gotta
EasternHockeyLeague.org website. Don't leave.
You got to think the Connecticut Chiefs are they're just awaiting their fate, because I think whoever they have to play, it's just not going to be a fun time in that playing game.
Yeah.
Jeremy would probably agree too, right, Neil? All right, who is it going to be? Is it going to be the Avs, the Wolves, Thunder?
Like, just pick
Are
your
we going to
poison right at that point.
Are we going to
Are
New
we going
York?
to Vermont?
Are we going to Vermont? Are we going to New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Where are we going? Like
all different places. How beautiful this time of year, but
obviously this Rangers winning streak that they've gone on has kind of put them in the complete control for that regular season championship, which of course means that they can at the very least win their first round series. They're going to Providence, right? Because there's always an at-large, the fourth best team, if you will, after the 3 winners in the division finals. And if you're the regular season champion, you're automatically going, and the closest behind them are the Railers. You only play 42 games in the EHLP. So quick math again, 5 more games to the Railers. They can get a max of 64 points. The Rangers are 3 wins away, guys, from winning the EHLP regular season title. So again,
did Zach Leibowitz call you yet?
I wasn't even thinking about any of these things a few days ago because we were having a baby.
You were in dad mode.
But like at the same time, it's like the end of this season feels like it's actually creeped up on us more than it ever has before. Right.
It's getting there. Yep.
And then, to wrap things up in the South, the win for the 87s this past weekend over the Huntsmen on the road, where they took 2 points, Huntsmen didn't get any, I think almost kind of solidified the order in that division, if you will, with the 87s going in as the 1 seed, Huntsmen as 2, Renegades as 3, and then Little Flyers and Union. Not to say that something can't happen, but if there's any one of the 7 divisions, when you combine EHL and EHLP, that's kind of locked into where they are, the closest one's probably that Mid-Atlantic and the EHLP, right? But there's still a lot to be determined. There's a little less than a month left to go here in the regular season. The final day is March 5th of the regular season. But let's all keep in mind that next week, of course, is the roster freeze. 1 week from today, the trade and free agent signing deadline. So a week from today is the 15th. So at 11:59 and 59 seconds, when that clock hits midnight, I'll probably be awake, to be honest. But you can't bring anybody in from outside the league, right? The teams
Only
that
your
have
premier and EHL
yes,
teams.
the teams that have EHL and EHLP, they have both in their organization, will then have from 12:01 on the 16th until March 1st to move kids up and down. So there's plenty of those players that we'll talk about more in this final month to figure out where exactly they're going to be, because in the past there have been some huge names. I mean, the biggest one that comes to mind for me is Jack Johansson, who must have played 20 EHL games for the Wolves in that 17-18 season. 17-18,
I think you're right.
And
that was the MVP of the EHL Premier.
Yeah, and he won the Defenseman of the Year award, and they decided to keep him on their EHLP team at the Freeze, and it led to an EHLP title. So is there another Jack Johansson out there? So
I mean, I remember Anthony Viola from last season.
100%.
He was great for the Boston Junior Rangers.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a lot about those players a week from today, as at least we'll know this a week from today. We'll have an idea of who the 1,000 or so players are in the league, because there can't be any new ones after that. So I'm just telling myself that out loud because it makes myself feel better and less stressed too. So, but with that, we also still have 2 weeks to recap in fantasy now. So let's get to the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge.
It's time for the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge.
The E-Crew Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
So, I have to apologize for those that were on the fantasy page anytime over the last 5 days. It listed all zeros for the guys that we picked this past week. I just didn't have a chance to get caught up on that. But just to rip off quickly what all the fantasy guys have done for both of our teams over the last 2 weeks. Michael Boschetto got you guys 9 points back from the 26th to the 1st. A goal for Jack Wyman, a big win for Jack Boschert that week. That was a 19-point week for you guys. And then you guys just simply went off this past week, Team HNIB. Despite Daniel McKieran only getting you 3 fantasy points, Ethan Lim got you 15 on a goal, 5 assists, and 2 power play points.
Wow.
And then we have felt the love from Dominic Stamakevez before, but he got you guys 4 goals, 2 assists, 4 power play points for 20. A goal and an assist for Adam Trubrand. I don't know if you talked to Ryan McGrath and you knew that Sam Bowes was going to start 3 games to get you 90 saves.
Workhorse.
Yeah, I mean,
workhorse, baby.
You got it was only 1 win, right? But the overall point total for your team was 59.
I'm telling you, it's all in the Bose goal canceling goalie pads.
So 19 2 weeks ago, 59 this past week. We'll get to the new picks in a second.
That was amazing.
And then for Team OG, we had an interesting week too. Actually, it's probably 2 of our better weeks in the second half here, Jeff, because Nolan McDonough got us 7 points. Ryan Papalardo got us 5 points. Tristan D'Elia 2 weeks ago didn't want to score any goals, but got us 9 assists.
Oh man,
so,
master distributor.
So then a power play goal for Dylan Kowalski, an assist for Zach Pappas, and a win for Shane Paremba 2 weeks ago that gave us 45.8. And then this past week, LJG Louis Joseph Gernon. This trend was actually the game-winning goal week, Jeff. We had 4 game winners this past week. Gernon got us 1. He had 9 points. Kobe Howitt, back-to-back Forward of the Week awards. I mean, I try not to do that, but I'm looking at all the numbers as I'm writing this yesterday, and I'm like, there's nobody else that I can pick. He has simply gone off. He has 22 points since returning from the holiday break.
He's a big reason the Flyers have stormed up the South standings.
2 goals, 5 assists, 2 power plays, a game winner. Max Morris only scored 1 goal, but it was a game winner. A power play assist for Ryan Sember, a game winner also for Jacob Gates, and then 2 wins for William Billiquay, including 1 against the Wolves when they were ranked in the top 5. So it was funny. I actually put in Team HNIB's point first from this past week. And I was like,
got scared.
59 points. Like, I don't know if Jeff and I matched that. And I was like, wait a second. We did. We had 60.2. So like literally right on top of
I
each
got
other with
you,
those
homie.
points. Before we
got you.
get to the picks, Jeff, do you want to pull out the trusty calculator? Actually, you know what?
Sure.
I don't
would love
need
to.
it. I don't need it because we
All right.
have 746.6 to 643. Even while recording a podcast, I can tell you right now that's 103.6. Okay.
We're back over the century mark. Woo!
Yes. But we
Breathe a
can't
little.
get ahead of ourselves, Jeff. We've had 2 good weeks.
I
But then
know.
again, they just had a really good week. We just happened to match it, right? So
They're coming.
That's how it's been going. That's how it's been going for us, I feel like.
For sure. And
just gotta break through.
So now that we're back in business, right? What's the next set of picks look like for Team HNIB?
Okay, so one thing I want to say with Team HNIB, because we know it's Team OG, the old guys, versus the HNIB being the young guns. So I think with that in mind, we're going to name our honorary captain this week, and it's going to be Chase Raven, the youngest member of the E crew of them all. Congrats again, Neil, on the birth of your son.
Neil. We're happy for you.
Maybe we can get a quick appearance here in a second. Can we keep going? That we
So we'll start off with the picks. We're going to go with Mattingly World from the New Hampshire Avalanche. The Avs have been scoring goals like nobody's business this season. He has 2 goals in his last 3 games. He's on a 3-game point streak. We're going to have him on our team this week. Then we're going to go with the sort of a member of the Preo Max line that we don't talk about all too often, Kenny Maxwell. Perfect symmetry as well, 40 points, 20 goals, 20 assists this season.
Love it.
And he has a goal in his last game against the New Hampshire Avalanche. Actually had a 2-point game with a goal and an assist. And then the Vermont Lumberjacks, they have their P team has 4 games this week. So we're going to pick 2 from their P team. Cameron Budway.
That's why you did that.
27 points in 31 games. He has a 4-game point streak, and 3 of those games he's had multi-point performances. And then on defense, we're going to go with Oliver Hertzberg, played with the Connecticut Chiefs. He's now with the Lumberjacks, has 2 assists in his first 2 games in Vermont. So he's going to be our first defensive pick, our second pick from the EHLP. Then also on defense, we have Lucas Salas from New York Apple Corps. He
points getter.
Had a multi-point game against my 87s. He's playing against them again this week. So if he racks up more points, at least I can take solace that he's helping out our fantasy team. So it'll be a win-win. And in goal, we have Colin Berkey. I think he's a goaltender we haven't talked about all too often. Team Maryland, they have 2 really good goaltenders in Berkey and Crosby. Berkey had just come off a 35 save performance against the ProTech Junior Ducks. It was a shootout loss, but played a hell of a game, and I think that it was good enough to have on our fantasy team now.
And your honorary captain for the week has made his appearance. He was actually giving you a thumbs up, Anthony. You didn't see it there for a second, but he just there you go. There's the thumbs up again for the picks. He's, I think he is proud to be a part of Team HNIB because he is definitely not an old guy, Jeff. He is.
Thanks, Chase. We're talking
about just days old. So
Dad and Uncle Jeff are a few years older than you, Chase. Yeah. But you'll be here.
Since you're
much
on Team
later on.
HNIB, I need to focus on Team
Vicky.
now.
I love it.
Picture for a second.
Dad's still fierce. Love you, son, but you gotta go.
Hey, he's picked his side, Jeff. I mean, we gotta draw the line at some point, right? So
yeah.
All right, Chase. We'll see how it is, buddy. We'll see how it is.
We got to get to what to watch for. So I'll just rip through our picks here quickly. William Jasmine's been great for the ProTech Junior Ducks since the recent addition for him.
Yeah, very
Whenever
good.
the Preo
Most
Max
points per
line
game.
doesn't score, I feel like it's Chase Leclerc scoring for the Seacoast Spartans. So we're going to go with that method. Cameron Cherry coming off a Forward of the Week award for the New Jersey Renegades in the EHLP, back-to-back 3-point performances. They have a big game against the 87s on Friday night. We're going JJ Creighton, Team Maryland defenseman, Noah Webster, Rhode Island defenseman, and then wrapping things up with, we talked a lot about Jack Boschert. Great interview again with Jake, but there's no goalie hotter in this league right now than David Felak, who's won 4 straight games while being like virtually unbeatable. 3 games with 1 goal against, 1 game with a shutout. Like that is virtually unbeatable. So those are
We
our
need another
picks.
Billiquay week like we had last week. So
Yes,
we can't
and-
screw around anymore, Neil. So good feedback. Let's go, buddy.
William, thanks for messaging me. And
Yeah, thank you.
The first message was congrats, because obviously we posted that Chase was born, and then congrats, and I hope you're proud that I got you 2 wins. Yes, just
Billiquay texted you that?
You know, he messages on Instagram, right?
Oh,
So
I love it.
It was pretty cool.
Oh, William,
I
where's
love
my
it's,
text?
It's
Sure.
awesome. He'll probably reach out now, Jeff.
I'm just kidding.
But now that we've got all caught up with the weekly rundown and the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge, we get to finally look forward again with our What to Watch For segment.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to Watch For is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action throughout the 2022-2023 season.
So I am such a hypocrite because in years past, I have gotten mad at people for picking the same team to watch for a lot. And someone listening is going to say, you pick Adirondack every week. And I'm going to say, you know what? Yes, I do. Because every time they play, it is electric.
Fun.
The day we're recording this was the first of a 3-game set between Adirondack and the Wolves. And we've touched on just how tight that New England division is in the EHLP. A 5-4 win for Adirondack in overtime. So then the day that we dropped this podcast, Thursday, February 8th, they don't play just once, they play twice. So listen to the podcast and then watch the 2 games. That's all I have to say. Who's next?
I'll go next, Neil. I'm going to go in the East Division, but not with the team that you think. I've actually got my eyes on the Warriors. I'm going to give Ryan Graff and his group a little love because they have been playing well of late, and they're about to embark on a pretty lengthy road trip for the month of February. They don't have a home game until the very end of the month. And while I could point out the game against the Express that's coming up on the 10th, I won't be on the call for that, unfortunately. So I'm looking at their next game, which is on the road against the Spartans. Because I think whenever you have to travel up to Exeter and play the Spartans at home, they are a different team at home than they are on the road. I think that's something they're going to have to try and address in the second half of the year, trying to get more of those road wins along with their success at home.
That's weird, Tyler, because I was actually going to go with the Express. So look at us switching, because I picked the Warriors, I think, 2 weeks ago to look
Yeah,
out
right.
for.
I'm glad I didn't pick them then. So
well done, partner. Well done.
Here we go.
Big matchup for the Express this weekend, as you know, Ty. Avalanche, Saturday night. 7:10 is puck drop, so be there, be square. And they haven't beaten the Avalanche yet this year. We talked about the Express struggles with the Rangers. Well, good way to fix that is to beat the best team in the EHL. They lost 4-1 to the Avalanche on the 11th, and they lost 3-0 to the Avalanche on October the 15th. So I think Nick Coda and the Express boys are going to be pumped to play that game on Saturday and hopefully get some more pucks behind. Will it be Parembo? Will it be Robideau? Whoever it is, they're going to want to try to light that lamp with a little bit more vengeance. So there's their first real big test to try and right the ship against some of this brass in the EHL for the Express is go up there and maybe knock off the Avalanche. Or actually, no, is that it's at Rodman. So stay home and do some cooking in your home bar. Knock them off at home. There you go.
With the EHLP, I'm going to say the Boston Junior Rangers and Vermont Lumberjacks. I mean, just 2 great teams. I think that should be a great matchup on the 12th. But then I also want to talk about the EHL with the Seahawks. They have a game coming up next Wednesday against the Lumberjacks. And shout out to Scott McManus. Had a great interview. Check out the Q&A that I had with him on the EHL website. Just figured I'd give a little plug there. But yeah, he talked about growing up in California, how he got into hockey. His mother was from Peru, went to the University of Miami, Ohio. That's how he met Scott's father-to-be. They moved to California, and Scott ended up watching his dad's beer league games where he played with his 3 brothers, and his dad was Scott's grandfather. He said he was in the locker room at times. He'd watch some of the games from the benches. So really good story. Also got to reunite with Cade Herrera, another California native. And nice. Because I think the Seahawks can make some noise in the playoffs. I think they're a really good team. So they have some other good teams in that division, but like I said before, the playoffs are a crapshoot, and we'll see how they do because they're playing the Lumberjacks this week. They have some other really good opponents in this home stretch. So I think we'll see what they're made of in these final few games for them.
For sure. Well, thank you for everyone that listened. We're back on track now. It's funny because you think about it when you take a step back. You're like, how far can we really fall behind in a week? And that's just that episode is how much can happen, in that extra week's time. And we're now at a point in the season where, I mean, every point of the season, every point is critical for all these teams. But even more so down the stretch with, as I said earlier, really only one division that you can make the case that the teams are kind of in the position where they're going to finish. Every other division,
out of the 7.
Yeah, every other division feels like it's totally up in the air, which, of course, for the scheduler makes me a little bit stressed in that, like, I can't even say, like, get your ice ready, right? Like, I guess I could say, like, to the New England division and the EHLP, hey, one of you most likely is going to host the Chiefs in the EHLP playing game if you fall into that game, right? Like,
you can start penciling stuff in. Nothing in pen. Pencil allowed.
It's just so hard to predict, but it's going to make this final month a heck of a lot of fun. So we're back in business. The podcast is back. Knock on wood, no more weeks off. And we'll enjoy what we can do down this stretch. So we'll talk to you guys next week.
See you next week, boys.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.